I'm going to talk about population trends and the current status of pinniped populations in Baja California, with an emphasis on California sea lions, northern elephant seals, and Guadalupe foam seals. Well, there are 4 pinniped species in Mexico: the California sea lion, the northern elephant seal, the Guadalupe foam seal, and the harbor seal. The most abundant is the California sea lion population, the California sea lion, sorry. We can find the colonies in both coasts of the Baja California Peninsula, in the Gulf of California, and on the Pacific coast. The other species, the northern elephant seal, Guadalupe foam seal, and harbor seal colonies are located on the Pacific side of the Baja California Peninsula. All of these species are protected both in Mexico and in the United States, and the Guadalupe foam seal is the only species that is considered in danger of extinction in Mexico. Well, the California sea lion population has been estimated in the Gulf of California and in the Pacific for several authors since the 1950s. And as you can see here, this is a table, this is a summary of all the censuses that have been published for this species. We can see that most of the effort has been concentrated in the Gulf of California. We don't have a pointer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't show up very well on the TV.
Oh, okay, and well, most of the effort has been concentrated in the Gulf of California, and most of the censuses include breeding colonies. So from this information, from these censuses, we know that the world California sea lion population has increased, and that the distribution of the animals has changed, and also we know that the population in the Gulf of California has declined. Lebov and collaborators found that at the end of the 70s, the world population was around 145,000 animals. Of these, 46% were in the Pacific, on the Pacific coast, 16% in the Gulf of California, and 35% in the United States. Then, Aureoles and Zavala counted around between 28 and 31,000 animals for the Gulf of California. During the period of 1980-1990, there was an increase of 35% since the last census done. Then, Mark Lowry and Maravilla counted in 2002 that the that in 2002 the world population was between 344 and 359,000 animals. 22% of these were on the Pacific coast, 9% in the Gulf of California, and between 67 and 79% in the United States. And then in 2004, Stern and collaborators found that the Gulf of California population had declined by 20%. They counted between 24 and 31,000 animals on this area. So here we can say that the world population has increased and the distribution has changed. Now most of the animals are located in the United States. And precisely speaking about the status of the California sea lion population, 2 years ago, there was a workshop on the population status of this species in Mexico, in La Paz, where researchers, students, and specialists in species conservation met with the following goals. The main goal, we have 3 main goals, but the most important was to examine the status of the sea lion reproductive colonies through the country in order to identify population units and recommend appropriate conservation plans. Although the 4 pinniped species are protected, the California sea lion is of special interest because it's the most abundant, it has the largest geographic distribution, and also is considered a sentinel species, a biological indicator. So most of the salient challenges that were pointed out in this workshop were the differences in the Gulf versus Pacific monitoring effort, that there is a lack of coordination between research groups, information is not easily accessible, and also that monitoring through the entire region is too expensive by being undertaken by a single research group. So we already see that most of the censuses have been done in the Gulf of California, but I also have to mention that there are several studies concerning other biological and ecological variables, as well as genetic structure in the Gulf of California. And precisely based on these genetic structure information, population tendencies, and ecological variables, particularly the diet, we have been able to define 4 population units of this species in Mexico. These are the 4 units. One is in the north of the Gulf of California. The other one is in the region of Las Grandes Islas. The other one is in the mouth, the southern Gulf of California. This is like a transitional region. And then we have the last one in the northern eastern Pacific. So sea lions in the northern area, in the unit 1, are isolated from the rest of the sea lions in Mexico. Then we have, well, as I mentioned before, number 3 is like an area of transition. And then the area of the northern eastern Pacific have sea lions that are connected with sea lions in the United States. And this is just to show you the growth patterns that we have for the sea lion colonies in the Gulf of California. Also, the overall population has declined. Each colony has a particular tendency of growth. So some colonies are increasing, other colonies are declining. Those colonies, you can see them on the map. They are on the Grandes Islas region, on the north of the Gulf of California. And this is a very important point, because this population had dramatically declined during the last 20 years. So the Mexican government is very interested in studying these particular populations. And then we have other populations that are fluctuating. This is the scenario for the colonies on the Pacific coast. As you can see, we don't have a lot of information here, like with the Gulf of California. But here, the biggest colony is found on San Benito Islands and on Cedros Island. So from here, from these plots, we can see that the populations have been relatively stable, and there is no information to believe that these populations are in critical condition so far. And thinking on the conservation issues for these Pacific colonies, the good thing is that except for Guadalupe Island, Pacific colonies have large populations, that they have been stable over the last 20 years. But we have to consider that all the Pacific coast colonies are exposed to dramatic population fluctuations associated with El Niño events and with the Pacific decadal oscillation. And also, although no massive mortalities or episodic outbreaks have been reported on these populations in Mexico, we know that there is an influx of animals between the United States and Mexico. So we have to consider that during their migration to the United States, these animals can encounter populations with recurrent episodic outbreaks. Another thing that we have to consider is the interaction with the fisheries. In the Pacific coast, the entanglement rate is very low compared to the Gulf of California. However, we have to monitor this interaction because we don't know how the incidental catch is going to affect the viability of these populations. And San Benito's Islands are of particular interest for us in Mexico because of the increasing presence of humans on the island, and also because the expansion of fishing activities, and the most important is that this archipelago combines unique geographic, topographic, and environmental productivity characteristics that make it suitable habitat for the 4 species. And something that is important to mention is that as a result of this workshop that we had in La Paz, we had for first time a Programa de Monitoreo Biológico. This is a monitoring program in Mexico that is financed by the Mexican government. So in 2011 and in 2012, we were able to do an entire census in the Gulf of California, and we're going to have money next year for doing this summer. Now, this monitoring program is concentrated in the Gulf of California, but probably in 2 more years we're going to be able to move to the other side. It depends on the money. The Guadalupe fur seal was a species that was indiscriminately captured and was considered extinct by the end of the 19th century. As I mentioned before, this species, or I don't know if I mentioned it, so maybe I didn't. This species is endemic to the Guadalupe Island, used to be endemic to the Guadalupe Island, because recently some animals were recorded on the San Benito's Islands. In 1997, 50 animals were seen on San Benito's Island. I want to talk about that population later. But here we have the population trend for the Guadalupe fur seal in Guadalupe Island. You can see that from the 1950 to the 1980, the population had a discrete increase, followed by exponential phase of increase. Pulp production, I don't know how to mark it here, but pulp production are these marks, the stars, below, had a similar pattern of growth, but didn't reach the exponential phase and for another 7 years. Now, the current population of this species is between 8,000 and 10,000 animals. This is the minimal populations. We are not applying any correction factors. And in the case of the San Benito's Island, you can see that this population has a similar pattern of growth. It's growing very rapidly. The last census that was done by Dr. Fernando Noriega found that there are more or less 4,000 animals right now. However, the number of pups that we see on that island are between 4 and 8 every year. This table here, we can see the age structure of the population on Guadalupe Island on the top. As you can see, this population is composed mainly by adult females and juveniles. The number of adult females and juveniles have increased over the time, while the number of adult males and pups remains constant. So according to Aureoles Gamboa, factors that may contribute to the delay of the full breeding activity in San Benito are that some otarids may need minimal population size in order to initiate consistent periods of reproduction. So although both colonies of Guadalupe fur seals are growing rapidly, one of the issues that we find in this species is that their low genetic diversity. Also that, unlike sea lions, this species is not affected by fishing activities. However, climate change impact on prey availability has to be considered on future studies. And also we have to think about the potential competition with California sea lions. Fur seals prey mainly on squids. However, in the last years, we have seen that they are consuming fishes more than they used to do 20 years ago. And this is the northern elephant seal. This species was also exploited and was considered extinct by the end of by 1870. And some animals were seen at the beginning of the 20th century. They are currently found on those 6 islands in the Pacific coast of Baja California. And this is the scenario that we have for the northern elephant seal. We don't have a lot of information. We have few censuses done in this species. Most of the population is concentrated on Guadalupe Island. So from this information that we have, you can see that the population has increased. It's the general pattern that we can see from this. And in Mexico, we only have between 4.5 and 5% of the world population. most of the population is concentrated in the United States. So for the elephant seals, one of the main issues is that we don't have information on different species. But the good thing is that in the last years, we have been able to study the reproductive behavior and the foraging behavior. And, we don't know how these populations are affected by warming caused by El Niño events or large-scale events like the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. So the conclusions of this presentation are that we don't have a lot of information regarding the status of California sea lions, Guadalupe fur seals, and northern elephant seals. However, from available data, we are able to say that these populations are apparently in good condition. Special attention has to be paid to the California sea lion in the Gulf of California, and we must systematically monitor colonies in the Pacific in order to define the population size, identify population trends, and determine their viability. Pinnipeds from the Pacific coast of Baja California and Baja California Sur are affected by warming events like El Niño and the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. Thus, we need to conduct systematic census on these colonies and determine their feeding habits, interaction with fisheries activities, health, viral rates, etc., in order to predict the responses of these individuals to drastic environmental changes like those associated to the global warming. And I don't know how to say it, I'm sorry. I want to thank the Pacific Life Foundation for the financial support. Thank you.